Hi, everybody. We're live in Studio B, getting ready for our show number 776. We got Mark Holland still in Barcelona. Do you know where your AC 75s are? He's saying in the chat.
Yeah.
John Emmett's on Rhode Island Rover. Ted Ryman down in Cape Town. Chris Fury in Melbourne. We're going to celebrate a regatta that took place last weekend in Melbourne. Thierry de Jong down in SoCal. Mark Holland, we mentioned. Rhode Island Rover. It's 80 degrees in Rhode Island. Rhode Island!
That's incredible.
I love Newport. I miss Newport. Welcome to all of you. Alan Long is back home in Lago Vista, Texas, as we get this one through the starting line. Hi, everybody. Yes, again, we are live from Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club in the beautiful Marina District here in San Francisco, where it's a little after 1 o'clock, 1 in the afternoon. Julia's back with us here.
Yes.
I trust you are well, Commodore Vatican.
Oh, I can hardly wait.
Any hot tips?
No, but it's a great day to begin sailing.
Co-host of the show, really one of the founding members. We wouldn't have Beach Street Yacht Club. We wouldn't have Studio B if it weren't for Julia, the landlady, my esteemed landlady. And welcome to the Tom and Julia Show. Thanks for joining us from around the world. Marine Images, that is Graham Sweeney saying hi from a blustery Shetland Islands. We have the Coast Guard chopper just outside the window dodging the wind.
Okay.
James Appel in Annapolis. Ted Ryman has said to you, Julia, you see that comment?
Oh, yes, but I missed you much more.
You were upstairs in the Commodore's suite when we did all these watch parties, but we've done a couple shows. We actually did 10 shows in the last 2 months. I didn't realize that we'd done this many shows.
Yeah.
Normally, of course, we do, 2, 4, 6, 8, we did 16, 17, 18 shows per month. But let's get on with it by starting with this thank you to last Tuesday's guest. We didn't do a show on Friday. To Ben Remacher from Canada. We did show 772 with him a week ago today. And he is the esteemed general manager, the class manager for the NACRA 17 class, as well as the 49er and the 49er FX. We had Ben on live via Skype from Vancouver, up in the beautiful PNW, Pacific Northwest. On that show, he announced that he was withdrawing his candidacy for president for World Sailing and throwing his support to Philippe Roga of Belgium, who is probably the leading presidential candidate. We'll see. That election is in a couple weeks, first week of November in Singapore, which is where the AGM, the annual general meeting, is of World Sailing, just in 2.5 weeks' time. Ben withdrew, as I said, from the presidential race. He announced that withdrawal here on the show and endorsing Philippe Roga, who I think we certainly endorse him as well. We think he would be a terrific president, don't we, Julia?
Absolutely.
You don't know him.
But I've heard so much about him and what he did that I am now a fan.
Well said. And I barely know him. I haven't seen him. I haven't, since he was a kid. I used to go over to his dad's house, as I said, on show 772 with Ben. And we'd go over there to dinner to see Philippe's dad, Dr. Jackie Roga, who was president of the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, for 12 years, I think, back in the day. Tom Fishbeck is in Tempe, Arizona. Blake Middleton is from his new home in Minneapolis. Hello, Blake. And Gordon Smith, as the old NRA joke goes, quote, I miss my wife. If she stood still, I would get a better aim. That's terrible, Gordon.
Yeah.
That is terrible. Jeff Ogles on the D.C. Beltway. That's the freeway system surrounding Washington, D.C., our capital city here and district, actually, the District of Columbia here in the U.S. And on. Speaking of World Sailing, we have some World Sailing news, Julia.
Ready.
Have a look at this. This is the list of council reps. These are the people who will be serving on the board of directors, the big council. Yeah, the executive committee is now called the board, but it's really a subset of this group and with the officers. And there are a number of esteemed racing sailors on there, including one of our Fozy. In fact, there's arguably three Fozy on here, but one for sure. Do you see at the very end of that list, Julia?
Leisha.
Lily Zhu is on representing China on the council. Bravo Zulu to
good.
her. We're delighted to hear
Yes.
that, to see that. That's John Emmett's wife is going to be on the council from the first week of November for the next quadrennium, the next 4 years. So again, Bravo Zulu to her.
That's good.
While we're at it, Bravo Zulu also to the Kiwis, who since our last regular show last Tuesday, we didn't do a show on Friday, but on Saturday this past weekend, as I'm sure you all know, the Fat Lady sang. And that was the end of AC 37, Julia. Thank God. I was ready for it to end. I think a lot of people were ready for it to end, right?
Yes.
I think so too. Gordon Smith saying, "Go Lily." Yeah, that's not Lily there in that picture. She's a very skinny, fit gal. But Bravo Zulu to the Kiwis. The thrill of victory, as they used to say here on ABC's Wide World of Sports, and the agony of defeat to the Brits. They kind of stiff upper lipped. It probably was okay. They got 2 wins, which was good, but the Kiwis basically ran away from the other challengers, including the Brits, including everybody, and cemented their three-peat, the 3rd win in a row. They won in Bermuda in 17. They were defended in Auckland in 2021, and now they have defended in Barcelona in 2024. I'm a little testy about the media coverage saying, "Oh, this is historic. It's the first time a team has won 3 in a row," because that's not really true, as we said on one of the watch parties.
Right.
Golden Gate Yacht Club is not a team. That's a club that has won 3 in a row. New York, of course, won 3 in a row, but that's also fair. Golden Gate won in 2010. We did, and then we defended in 13. We won in 10, we defended in 13, and lost. So it wasn't Golden Gate, it was San Diego Yacht Club, who won. Dennis did in 87, defended in 88, which was also a Dennis defense. But remember, it was Bill Koch, a different team, that defended in 92. So I'm referring back to Commodore Vanderbilt, Mike Vanderbilt, who won in 33, in 30, was it 31? 31, 34, and 37? Or was it 30, 34, and 37? But he won all 3 of those, so that was the same team. Bravo Zulu to him. But also Bravo Zulu to the Kiwis. It was a massive achievement, especially doing it not on their home turf. I mean, let's face up to it. There was probably as many, they had a lot of Kiwi supporters there that showed up. And again, Bravo Zulu to them, but the Brits had a lot of supporters as well. The Italians had a lot of supporters back during the finals of the LVC, the Louis Vuitton Cup.
Right.
But it was a massive celebration and well-deserved after, thanks Ed Worley, 30, 34, and 37, that J-boat era. And massively, it was just a drubbing. I mean, 7-2 it's better than 7-0.
It is.
Better than a whitewash, better than a clean sweep. But it was 7-2, as you all know. Now, who, Julia, predicted 7-2?
You did.
I did. I had my crystal ball out on the 8th of October. Actually, before that, I did a talk down at the Arizona Yacht Club and predicted 7-2 to them down there, but that was quiet off the record, but I did predict it. And not that it took any, great mystical powers to do that. You predicted 7-5.
4.
Oh, 7-5. It's right there on the slide.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
7-5.
I was hoping for a big...
You were cheering for the Italians.
I was.
You were cheering for the Italians. 7-5. Yeah, I think I was cheering for the Brits as well. I thought the Kiwis were going to win, and of course they did. So did a whole lot of other people, because the defender has inherent advantages. The Kiwis are still the toughest, best sailing team, America's Cup team in the modern history of the sport. You got to give them credit. I mean, the last one that came close to that was Dennis, who helped in the 70s win, but he won in 80. He came back and won in 87. He won again in 88. And that guy is he's a magician.
Yeah.
He just is a magician. Pedro Foiling Sailor, just because it's on the slide and written down doesn't mean it's true.
What?
You're 7.75, 7.4.
Oh well, it is. I was just expecting a battle to the end.
There were others, Julia, who predicted 7.2, including
Aha.
our Fozy, Vice Commodore Claire Harrington of the New York Yacht Club. She predicted 7.2 early on, especially after she saw how the Brits dispatched the Italians. But she was there this whole time in Valencia, and she saw the handwriting on the wall early on. And by the way, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin also predicted 7.2 up at the Stag Cruise to me when he was here as our keynote speaker. The two of them finally met.
Oh, good.
That's a photo from just a few days ago in Barcelona at one of these swanky parties that they've both been going to.
Yeah.
Mr. Doctor is already back in the UK. He, I think, went back over the weekend, and Claire either flew yesterday or is flying today back to the States, as is Julie Ahrens, who is about to land at JFK as we speak. She said she was going to land, and while she was laying over waiting for her flight to Cleveland, she would check in and watch the show. So watch for her comments, see if she comes on. And we'll see. Ted Ryman predicted 7.0, so that was the right team, the wrong number. But the problem was, as a lot of people have said, the Brits, DBA, the Royal Yacht Squadron, DBA, the Challenger of Record, were not the toughest Challenger of Record in the history of the Cup. I may be one of the persons that could lay claim to that when I was representing Golden Gate leading up to the 07 match and then in the 010 match, because you got to have a tough Challenger of Record. And I hope the Royal Yacht Squadron and Bertie Bickett, whom we've met, have we had I think we've even had Bertie on the show.
I don't think so.
Not, but we've met him and spent a lot of time. Lovely gentleman. We spent time with him at the Sail GP 2 years ago. He was here. And he's, again, there's an interview he's done with Matt Sheehan, Planet Sail, on the YouTube channel. Go have a look at that. It's a bit disconcerting because he, as Hamish Ross and others have said, he's just a lovely gentleman, and he doesn't seem to have the toughness that maybe is required of a Challenger of Record to negotiate hard and tough with the defender to be sure the challengers as a group have a pretty good deal and therefore a chance of winning. We'll get back to more of that when we get to our AC 38.
Wow.
Not 37, our AC 38 update. We can do that. What are we celebrating today, Julia? There's a clue under that lower third. Excuse me.
Well, somebody's win.
That is, we're celebrating the end of AC 37.
Oh, good.
That is the fantastic entourage following Team New Zealand in after their win on Saturday. There were a fair few spectator boats out there, nothing like the thousands of boats they got in Newport or in San Diego even, and a few other venues. But still a nice, healthy spectator fleet. Bravo Zulu to them. Do you recognize this? This is an exclusive photo to Sailing Illustrated because it's actually a screen grab off that aforementioned video, Matt Sheehan interviewing Bertie Bickett. That is the Royal Yacht Squadron's, only members of the Yacht Squadron can display that flag. That is the flag, and there's a better word for it than that. Someone help me out. Come on, help me out in the comments. The government endorsed that as the ensign. Thank you, Chris Fury. The white ensign of the Royal Yacht Squadron, not the Burgee. It's the ensign. Correct, Steve Gruber. Correct, Gordon Smith. Thank you very much for the help. So we're celebrating the end of AC 37 and Julia, the start already of AC 38. We're going to cover that later in the show. Of course, we are also celebrating all of you who give us $1 or $2 or more per month. That's gone up a bit during the last couple months during the America's Cup, and we appreciate very much those of you who do support us via Patreon or otherwise, sending us booze, sending us early morning breakfast.
Oh, yes.
Which has happened.
A little spice in the coffee.
And Julia's got some of that bourbon cream. That bourbon cream from Kentucky.
Yes, and it's very good.
again. So thanks to all of you who do support us. If you want to join and haven't already, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, and we do deeply appreciate your support. It's what allows us to do all these shows, including, I counted them up, Julia, we did 31 watch parties in the last 2 months. We started 2 months ago today on the 22nd of August. That was race day 1 of that preliminary regatta. Some of those days didn't have racing. And frankly, the days that didn't have racing were more difficult to do watch parties because we ended up gas bagging for an hour or 2 or more.
I still don't know how you did that. But
well, with the help of the Zoomers.
Well, actually, there were great conversations that went on during those.
And the help, exactly, and the help of the, I don't know whether to call them chats or chatterers, but the chat was also a huge help, including and especially Ed Worley, and we'll come to that in a moment. 31 watch parties. I counted them up this morning between the first one on the 22nd of August and the last one this past Saturday.
I do know that it's hard to reset wake-up patterns.
Are you reset now?
No.
I am. I finally slept in both yesterday and today to normal time, to 7 o'clock, 6:30, maybe 6 o'clock, but nonetheless. So thanks again to all of you who contributed to that. By the way, the watch party is one thing, but there's a fair bit of prep for each of these shows. The watch parties are a lot easier to prepare for than our normal Tuesday and Friday shows. But there's also some work to do afterwards, like disputing with YouTube when they try to knock us off the air. And here is the latest. They also tried to they obliterated our show 775 from this past Saturday. And I, again, for the, 31st time, I challenged it. And the good news came in this morning that after reviewing your dispute, LDS Sports has decided to release their copyright claim on your YouTube video, which I, of course, file a claim. I file an objection, a dispute, and say it's fair value, it's news value, it's educational. We're essentially nonprofit. And every time, to their credit, LDS, whoever that is, it's not the Church of Latter-day Saints. It's not the Mormon Church. Every time they have released their claim and let our YouTube video stay up on our Sailing Illustrated YouTube channel. We've had no problems on Facebook. Now, speaking of which, Julia, I just want to say to everybody watching today on YouTube, I'm running videos as usual, as we've been doing for 7 or 8 years now. 6 or 7 years. We've been at this for 8 years. I'm running more YouTube videos today. And if for some reason in the middle of one of those videos you get that black screen of death where they say, oh, copyright, and we're going to black out the content, the content will come back after we get off that video. I'm told it will not happen. I've worked on this, checked around. As I say, there's more to doing one of these shows than sitting down and gas bagging and pushing a few buttons here in the master control room. But if that happens, go over and watch it on Facebook because it doesn't get blacked out there, and I'm continuing to work on that issue with YouTube. But, you know, we've never had any problem running videos from the Finn class, from many others of you, but we did have a couple problems during the America's Cup watch parties, and I'm assured that won't happen again. But one had, in fact, both of them had nothing to do with the America's Cup. One was that J-Boats video that, of course, came off YouTube. But depending upon the copyright structure and level that a provider, somebody that uploads a video to YouTube, it can change it. In any event, enough about all that. We did this is the shot here that we used a little bit during the watch party, between August 22nd and the 19th, this past Saturday, we did 31 watch parties. We actually did 41 shows in 2 months' time. So
that's a world record.
It's probably, for us, it's a record. I'm sure it's not a world record. There are a lot of people that do a show.
For us, it's a world record.
For us, it is a show every day. But it was a lot of fun. It was easily, the watch parties were easily doable thanks to those of you in the chat, but especially our Zoomers, including Ed Worley there in the upper left corner, who's checking one of his many books and computers. He always had the stats for us. Graham Sweeney there in the upper right, who had his dog and you can see his pillow there, and behind him his Union Jack pillow. Later on, we had Pedro Foiling Sailor, a.k.a. Peter Stevenson, came on from Australia in the last couple of shows. Gordon Smith was a regular in Denmark. He, of course, is a Brit. And James Appel was on a few times, including the last couple of days. James, thanks to you. Phil Lindeman in Cleveland. Chris came on from Leamington, and we're going to do some more with Chris in a moment. And Julie, of course, was on as well. Up in the Commodore's suite, we got to see her, your red satin sheets, Julia.
Yes, indeed.
Christopher Gillingham is who came on from Leamington. But we had your red satin sheets. We had you laying in bed there with your computer and your television was on. You had 3 screens going.
I did.
3 screens going down there, up there in the Commodore's suite. And especially we want to say thanks to John Emmett, who did the play-by-play for us. And he didn't do the last day because he was off yacht racing himself, as you would, on this past Saturday. But thanks, John. It was terrific.
He was really good.
He was indeed. As were all the Zoomers. I mean, it was good fun.
Yes.
And good help. And as both John and I said, Julia, if we hadn't done the watch parties, we still would have been, I would have been sitting here in front of the screen. You would have been awake, maybe not every morning watching, because you were watching the watch parties maybe more than the America's Cup. But I would have come down here, turned the computer on at dark 30. The difference is I could have worn my New York Yacht Club bathrobe
I know.
and not had to go to hair and makeup and
what is fun is when you hear somebody compare our shows versus the network shows. They said, "Wow,
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you, and it was fun to see how many people gravitated over to us.
Yeah.
As the racing went on, because they got so tired of Mr. McIver.
Yeah.
Stephen McIver. I won't repeat what
No.
Ben Ainsley called him. You'd give me a
I would.
finger wag.
Yeah.
John's play-by-play was superb. Stingray agrees. Did the Kiwis knock the stuffing out of Graham's pillow? It was great to follow. Awesome effort. Thank you, Alan Long. Graham's dog story. Yeah, that was. Julie, did you hear that?
Yeah.
About Graham's dog taking a poo on his floor?
No.
Yeah, it was one of the mornings he was a
Oh,
little late.
he had to get up and leave.
He was a little late getting to his couch there in his
Yeah, I did hear that.
in his den. Okay, enough of congratulating ourselves, patting ourselves on the back, but I did want to thank especially the Zoomers who came on and helped me a lot, helped all of us. And speaking of John Emmett, why don't we get to his report, put it back up here at the top of the show. John Emmett's Coaching Corner. And I won't comment about how he looks in this video. I'll let you all do that. But it looks like he had a bit of a party himself last night.
He probably did.
Enjoy John Emmett's Coaching Corner.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. Welcome to John Emmett's Coaching Corner. It's been a while, hasn't it, with all the live shows? And thank you very much to Tom and all the Zoomers for putting that on. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed watching the racing, as I knew I would. And I would have been watching it at home anyway if I hadn't been joining in those live shows. So that was a lot of fun. The America's Cup, of course, was won by the fastest boat, which is often the way it is in a regatta, especially the fewer boats. Boat speed becomes absolutely king, both straight line and going through manoeuvres. And that's why, as coaches, we spend just so much time looking at it. But now, back to home and to grassroots sailing, something very close to my heart. And over the next few days, we've got quite a lot of special general meetings, and that's for both Weirwood, where I learnt to sail and where I grew up, near Imblehorn Farm, and Castle Cove, which is also very close to the Weymouth and Portland National Sailing Academy, which is where I sail now that I live in Weymouth. And these clubs are the absolute bedrock of our sailing, and I will give you some update on the next show. But between now and then, I'd love to know what everybody's sailing, who they're sailing with, and where they're sailing. And then perhaps that will guide a few more coaching corners.
We're going to focus on that. We're going to, one of these shows, we'll maybe do a Zoom call and get people on by Zoom, advertise it in advance, and ask people, come on, tell us, how did you get started in sailing? Was it because of your parents or your grandparents? Was it like Dennis did, wandering down to the local yacht club, Dennis Connor, and meeting Malin Burnham and Lowell North, and working on people's boats, and then getting invited to crew, which some people did. Was it a friend that took you sailing? Was it seeing something during college, on college campus? We know people who here in the States, at least, you go to the first day during orientation at school, and they have out someplace in the commons area,
Right.
they have tables for all the different collegiate clubs, including the sailing club, and somebody says, oh, I've always wanted to learn how to sail, and they go join the college sailing program or college sailing team. So that's something we're going to look into and talk more and more about grassroots sailing. And what a beautiful green
Yes.
that was. Speaking of grassroots, as we do, as John said, get into the SGM, the Special General Meeting, which one of his clubs is having because the landlord's trying to kick them off. We're going to spend some more time on that. That's sad.
Oh, yeah.
Club he grew up at. Castle Cove seems to be in good shape, but you have SGM season here in the Northern Hemisphere and AGM season, annual general meetings at the clubs. And we'll be talking a little bit about that. Thank you, John Emmett, for your coaching corner. John Emmett, get to the front of the fleet. Coach John Emmett, who's also, I think with each passing day, is becoming a better and better commentator.
Yes.
And that's really what he ought to go off and do more of.
Yeah.
I think.
I'm sure he'll be asked to.
No doubt. Okay. Julia, I think we should go to this day in history. I've got actually two. One courtesy of a FOSI, speaking of Christopher Gillingham.
Mm-hmm.
And that's from yesterday. Let's have a look at this. What happened on this day in history on the 21st of October, 1805?
1805.
Any idea?
Where was I in 1805?
You weren't even a glimmer in somebody's eye in 1800. You're too young. There's a clue. Let's see if any of the Brits, at least on here, speaking of white ensigns, that's a little bit different kind of a flag.
Yeah.
While you're thinking about that, we've already had 100 comments today.
Good.
Clark Chapin, first one, he gets it right away, and he's not even a Brit. The Battle of Trafalgar. The British fleet attacked the British embassy in Copenhagen. Gordon Smith is saying. Gordon is pretty clever. Christopher Gillingham sent this in. There was going to be your second clue. Our FOSI, Christopher and Jane in Leamington. That's his yacht on which he flies that flag. And the message that accompanied this, he said, ahoy, Tom and Julia. Quote, on this day in history, yesterday, the 21st of October, 1805. The Battle of Trafalgar is remembered. The photograph shows a replica of the Trafalgar pennant. I last deployed it at the 200th anniversary celebration of the review of the fleet of the Battle of Trafalgar in 2005 off Portsmouth Harbor, their big naval base there in the southeast of England, merry old England. My understanding is that it was the paying off pennant of HMS Victory on her return from the Battle of Trafalgar, otherwise known as the We Won, Let's Get Drunk pennant. I've checked the provenance, and there are a couple of links if you want to check that, and that courtesy of Christopher Gillingham. There's a photo, Chris and his bride, Jane, who are real fans, great FOSI, great contributors.
Absolutely.
And Julie, you talk about people who are resplendent. There he is in a tux and a bow tie. He came on those watch parties both times looking like a proverbial $1,000,000. You know, of course, it was his day. He was going to work, so he's dressed up nicely, kind of suit and tie, tweed jacket. But even on the weekends, the guy is, well turned out.
Sartorially splendid.
Sartorially resplendent.
Resplendent.
And I didn't go to Stanford. How's that?
Oh, I'm proud of you.
Was the Trafalgar a pub? Stingray's asking. I don't think so. Lord Nielsen. No, I think it was Lord Nelson. By the way, I saw, way up in the comments, Julia, I saw Victor Felice, our Maltese friend. We're going to talk about the Royal Malta Yacht Club. He's down in Arizona. He's been in Arizona for years and was at the presentation I gave to the Arizona Yacht Club when we did that.
Yeah. We have a FOSI from the Royal Malta.
We do, in any number of them, in fact. So, Victor, nice to see you on here. Gordon Smith says, I was well dressed on the watch parties if you like t-shirts. Everybody was appropriately dressed. We were a little more casual here as well. Thanks for Christopher and Jane Gillingham. Thanks for that little piece. Now, what happened on this day, Julia, the 22nd of October, in 1707? Again, nautically related.
1707.
Let's see if any of the Fozy know offhand what happened on this day in 1707. Well, there was one point, if you look very carefully, where I wasn't dressed. That's true. During the watch parties, Emmett came on shirtless one day. I don't think he realized I'd cut to that camera, to that group of those guys. Graham Sweeney saying that paying off pennant that Christopher Gillingham is still flown by Royal Naval vessel sailing into her home port after a tour. The length of the pennant denotes the length of the tour.
Ah,
what a bunch of smart people we have on
that's
here.
Nice to know. I love the look of those pennants.
Indeed. No, people are sensitive to camera. They're playing around the backgrounds. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Lord Nelson. I've stopped by the Lord Nelson in Sydney before one of my Heaven Can Wait races up to Lake Macquarie. Okay. Anybody know what happened on this day in 1707? Come on, you Brits. You Brits must know this. Here's a clue. Julia, does that help?
Admirable.
Christopher Gillingham's got this one right, too. The siege of, no, not the siege. I don't think it was a siege. That is Sir Cloudesley Shovel. What a name.
Woo.
Shovel, who lived from 1650 to this day in 1707. He died, apparently, on this day, the 22nd of October. That is a painting, by the way, by Michael Dahl. We always like to give credit. Michael Dahl of Sweden.
Aha.
Who lived from the mid-1600s to almost the mid-1700s. Well, here's another clue. It was the Sicily Isles, the Isles of Scilly, not Sicily, Scilly. Can we call a shovel a spade? Clayton Embley, provider of your Berman, Julia. Okay, was the daughter called Misty? Looks like he ate with a shovel fog machine. He was a bit plump, but then people were in those days. You never knew if you're going to get sick.
It was prosperous. Yeah.
He was prosperous. That guy had better hair than even Mr. Dr. McGurven. We got to go back now to that photo, Julia.
Yeah.
We got to go back.
Uh-huh.
That's a lion's mane if I ever saw it. He's not that big. Unless his cloak is covering it up. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what happened? The Scilly Isles in the, not the Celtic Sea, the Celtic Sea. There's another clue. J. Frederick Bland is bored. He's going off to the gym now. Bye for now. What happened? This is an 18th century engraving of the 1707 naval disaster. Come on, you Brits. The Scilly naval disaster of 1707 was the loss of 4 warships of a Royal Navy fleet off the Isles of Scilly in severe weather on the 22nd of October, 1707. Between 1,400 and 2,000 sailors lost their lives aboard the wrecked vessels, making the incident one of the worst maritime disasters certainly in British naval history and probably in a lot of other countries as well. The disaster has been attributed to a combination of factors, including the navigators' inability to accurately calculate their positions. They were coming back from Spain. Errors in the available charts and pilot books and inadequate compasses. Yeah, the Royal Navy foundered on unmarked rocks. Well, they were not unmarked. I think most people knew where the rocks were, but they did not know where they were, where on the face of the earth were they, because, Julia, in those days, one of the problems was you could tell latitude,
right,
but you couldn't tell longitude.
That's correct.
And this disaster, and whether that's really what attributed to this disaster or it was one of the contributing factors, but 2 years later, the Longitude Act of 1714 was an act of Parliament of Great Britain passed in July 1714 at the end of the reign of Queen Anne. It established the Board of Longitude and offered monetary rewards for anyone who could find a simple and practical method for the precise determination of a ship's longitude. The Act of 1714 was followed by a series of other longitude acts that revised or replaced the original blah, blah, blah. So what did they need to determine longitude? They needed an accurate clock.
Oh, yeah.
They needed a chronometer, and in those days they didn't have chronometers because the only accurate clocks, and they needed to know like within 4 seconds of it being, otherwise you're going to be off by several nautical miles, and clocks that went out with a pendulum. That's the only kind of realistic clock they had on shore, and those at sea did not work very well, plus the changes actually in gravity affected those pendulum clocks, the old grandfather's type clocks. So this act putting in rewards for somebody to try to figure out how to, and people have been trying for hundreds of years to try to, determine longitude, but it was that act that led to this chronometer and a bunch of others. This later in 1716, an early chronometer by a guy called Henry Sully, who was a Brit who lived in the late 1600s and to actually fairly short lifespan, only 49 years, right? And he developed this chronometer, which was fairly accurate. And then after they figured out to use the spring and to regulate the spring and yada, yada, the chronometers came pretty fast and furious. And by the late 1700s, early 1800s, they had pretty good chronometers, which allowed them then to judge longitude. Mm-hmm. Harrison, Gordon Smith, whose family were, H1, very well done. That was known as H1. Well done, Gordon Smith. His family, of course,
that's right.
The big clockmakers.
They are.
Including any number of famous clocks around the world. Gordon Smith, our Fozy, and it was the first watch party.
Oh. Graham.
Oh, Graham, sweetie, that was good. There's Clark Chapin's Wikipedia link to the Longitude Act. Mm-hmm. I've actually set up another computer here. I may go back during the next video. And I've set up the computer we were using during the, so I could bring the feed in for off of when we were going through the VPN to London.
Right.
I've kept, and you may have noticed, by the way, this is a bit of off the beaten track here, but I've moved the Crutonic corner off the desk to give myself some more room here for this computer, which we were using during the watch parties. And now I can, during the watch parties, I'm going to use this computer to get the link, and then I'm right now going to the link that Clark Chapin has given us, and with any luck, then I'll be able to display that into the show, and we'll try that in due course. So that's what's happened here to the Crutonic corner. Still there, not forgotten, just been moved off a bit. Pedro Foiling Sailor's contribution to the show. Mm-hmm. In any event, this day in history, on the 22nd of October back in 1707, the Scilly Isles naval disaster is what we were talking about.
It was a disaster.
It was a disaster indeed. Now, it's a lot of people to lose between 1,400 and maybe as many as 2,000. Mm-hmm. Mariners. That was a tough thing. Okay, Bravo Zulu. Let's go to Bravo Zulu. We've got some nice stuff going on in the sport besides the America's Cup, and it's nice to have the time to cover it. But Bravo Zulu to the line honors, at least monohull line honors, winner of the Rolex Middle Sea Race 2024, decided today, following a captivating duel between two 100-foot maxis arriving in Malta at 09:43 Central European Summertime today on Tuesday, the 22nd of August. Huang Sang Lee's Scallywag, David Witt at the helm, or at least a skipper. That 100-footer from Hong Kong took the title, completing the 606 nautical mile race course in an elapsed time of 2 days, 21 hours, 33 minutes, and 29 seconds. This race, Julia, as you told me from you were watching it on
Right.
your feeds, was pretty rough and ready. They had some really difficult segments, but the big boats came through, and this followed an epic contest with Blackjack 100, who's now, it's the Australian boat, Maxi, of course, that's now registered in Monaco, who finished a little under 19 minutes later.
That was one of the benefits of waking up early, because I woke up, my computer woke up and I woke up, and Afosi from Malta said, "You've got to,
got to tune in on this." You were watching that on Facebook, on your Facebook feed, you told me.
Yeah.
Well, bravo Zulu to them. Now here's a video. Now if you go black, if this video causes it to go black on YouTube, switch over to Facebook. I hope it doesn't. I think it's solid, but one never knows.
Drama, tenacity, and achievement, all in abundance at this year's Rolex Middle Sea Race. There were celebrations in Valletta today as Hong Kong yacht Scallywag 100 crossed the finish line in a time of 2 days, 21 hours and 33 minutes to claim line honours. Their victory came after an incredibly close contest with fellow Maxi Blackjack 100 that saw them duel for the lead all the way to the finish line.
It was like a 600-mile match race basically. We luffed them out at the start. Heart rate went down probably about 30 miles from the finish. Everyone was fully committed and a massive team effort. So to come out for our first effort and get a result, it's just absolutely fantastic.
The race produced particularly challenging conditions that included a punishing first night. And then the calm after the storm, as the leaders rounded Stromboli at first light. Scallywag, Blackjack and Lucky all in each other's company. For the remainder of the 606 nautical mile race, the leadership regularly changed hands. And it wasn't until the final stages that Scallywag opened up an advantage that she guarded successfully to the finish line. And in so doing, set the handicap benchmark for the rest of the fleet to now beat. As the testing conditions are forecast to continue, we're set for an exciting finale. Join us again to see who will be the overall race winner on corrected time and claim the prized Rolex Middle Sea Race trophy.
They do make nice videos. Rolex does. Thank you for that. And bravo Zulu. Congratulations to David Witt. I don't know if we have maybe David on the show once, but there he is in the middle, of course. The skipper of that yacht, Malcolm Lowell, is, I don't know from where he is. It looks like he's got a Royal Malta tie on, but I'm not 100% sure. He's the Rolex rep there at the prize giving. David in the middle, of course, receiving the trophy from the Commodore of the Royal Malta Yacht Club, Commodore David Cremona. Bravo Zulu to all of you. And by the way, if I just go back here, Julia, to this previous thing, I now have the facility to, when one of you puts a comment in the feed, as Clark did, I can quickly call that up on this other computer and scroll through what is this longitude act, which arguably, well, it didn't arguably, it led to the chronometer, at least accelerated the chronometer, the invention thereof of a workable chronometer. And we now have that facility here in Studio B, and that's just another example of where you give us a few bucks a month and we can improve our facilities, and where the other yachts using Omega. And the YouTube survived. As I said, I think we figured that out. I'm not 100% sure, but there are different levels of copyright. And when you upload a YouTube video, and Rolexes, we've never had a problem with the Rolex video, but we did have a problem with that video the other day from the Maxi class, or the J-Boat class.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was all about. But thanks, Clark Chapin, for that. And Alan Long is saying, yes, congrats to all the finishers. That was a hell of a storm, a heck of a storm. It was indeed. And bravo Zulu again to the line honors. They're just today. They just finished. They started what, Saturday or Sunday? I guess Sunday. And maybe it was Saturday.
Saturday.
And it was Saturday, right, Julia?
I think so.
Put your mic up, please. Just up. There you go.
I think so.
Yeah, there we go. And then I will, I'll drag out some more of the good stuff for Friday's show. Okay? Timex. Andrew Pindar is on. He also got down to Barcelona briefly. Our feature today is the Finn class and this amazing record number of entries at the Finn Europeans. The Finn Europeans are going on, started a couple days ago, and it includes the U23, the under-23 Finn Europeans, and also the European Masters in Cannes in France, and 18 to 25 October, hosted by the Yacht Club de Cannes in conjunction, obviously, with the International Finn IFA, the International Finn Association, and they've got a record 152 entries from 22 countries. So bravo Zulu to them. As I posted on the promo for this show, Italy's Alessandro Marega is the early leader after day one. They had no racing today, day two, because of light air. But he's the early leader at the 2024 Finn European Open Championship. Open Europeans, I should say, at the Yacht Club de Cannes after 3 great races on day one in a building breeze. He won all 3 of his group, meaning the fleet is so large, they've broken them into 2 groups, maybe more, but several groups in the preliminaries here, and then the top from each of the groups move forward to the final group here later this week. He won all 3 of his group races to sit 5 points clear of France's Laurent Hay, with Valerian Lebrun in third. Lebrun took 2 race wins, while the other race went to the Netherlands' Peter Pete, that guy we keep talking about because we love his name, don't we, huh?
Yep.
Peter Pete. We know a few Tommy Thomases. We don't know any Julia Julies, do we?
No.
But Peter Pete, we got to get him on the show. We keep saying that. Marega said, quote, this was after yesterday's racing, today I had the perfect day scoring 3 bullets. The conditions out there were amazing with 12 knots of wind. Hopefully I will continue sailing like this for the rest of the championship. The most challenging thing today was the downwind because the waves weren't aligned with the wind and they were hard to surf. Ed Worley's asking, so why is the Finn not in the Olympics?
Oh, I know. It's because it's so unpopular.
Yes, right.
Not made of plastic. Although I guess there are plastic fins.
Well, they're all plastic boats. They're all fiberglass boats these days. Finn's proof that sometimes Olympic status may not matter as much for a truly healthy class. Stars too, Blake Middleton is saying. Yes, indeed.
Yep.
So here is the video from day one, again, off of YouTube. Again, we've never had a problem with a video from the Finn class, and hopefully we won't today. We are muted. The Finn class makes nice videos too, don't they, Julia? Bravo Zulu to them. Good music. I agree, Ted Ryman. We were in fact, I had it on too loud, turned it down a bit there at the end. Thank you to the Finn class, to Robert Deves. As I said, they had no wind today. That was that was a great photo. And the second day of the Open Finn Europeans was canned in Cannes. Good headline. That was not my headline. That from the class. All racing on the second day of the Open Finn European in Europeans in Cannes was abandoned after the wind failed to show up. With 3 races sailed on opening day, 1 more race is needed on Wednesday to enable the final series to begin as scheduled on Thursday. So nice stuff. And Laurent Hay, by the way, who is ranked world number 1 in the Finn class, a French guy, won the. He's not afraid of winning the warm-up regatta. You know, a lot of us I always felt that was bad luck.
Yeah.
If you were winning the warm-up race,
Yep.
you'd not cross through the finish line. You'd go off and not cross through, so you didn't win the warm-up race or the warm-up series. But he has no problem. He has no superstition about that. Won the warm-up regatta, sort of going away. So bravo Zulu to him. We'll see how he does later this week against Peter Pete and others. We'll see how they do. Okay, America's Cup. It's still there in Barcelona, although I think the Cup has left and gone to New Zealand with the team for celebrations there. That is no longer the AC37 Cup date, but it's now the AC38 Cup date. And here is a video about the venue, which is now on the tip of everyone's tongue. Where will the next one be? And when will it be? Although I'm pretty sure it's going to be 2027. Where will the next one be? Here is a news report from New Zealand from last night.
So now we know that Ineos Britannia is the next challenger. The next big question is where the next America's Cup will take place. Already there have been calls led by Team New Zealand patron Helen Clark for Auckland to host it again, while others say the government can't cut thousands of jobs and then fork out millions to host a boat race. Grace Thomas waded into the debate.
The champagne had barely lost its fizz before talks turned to whether the next America's Cup would make it back to Aotearoa.
Oh, definitely should be. I think New Zealand won. It should be here.
We're pretty consistent in winning it, so I think we should get it.
In the wake of their latest win in Barcelona, plenty of support is already being thrown behind bringing the competition home.
I just think some quick action to really think about, could we do this, and think about the benefits to the country. The reality is we're a sailing nation and it does have knock-on impacts. We'd just love to see that energy and desire to put us back on an international stage after a pretty tough time.
And I think all Kiwis would love to see the next Cup Series hosted here in New Zealand. I certainly think the government should be talking to Team New Zealand about whether or not we can make that happen.
Team New Zealand Chief Executive Grant Dalton has previously said a return to Auckland isn't off the table, but that he wouldn't be pursuing such a deal and it'd be up to the government to make a pitch. But amid huge public service cuts, the Prime Minister's warning economic times are tight and it may not be high on the priority list.
I just do acknowledge, however, that it's really tough times for New Zealand as well, and so we'd have to weigh that up against all the other things that we want to be able to do.
And it seems the biggest issue for Team New Zealand now may not be where they host the next one, but how they reconnect with New Zealanders.
I've had very little interest in the America's Cup because it's not here. So, and time zones. So calling it Team New Zealand seems a bit rich if it's not here.
I think got caught up in the excitement the last few times and it's been here a little bit, but this time, no.
No question that hosting the event here would bring a whole lot of New Zealanders back on board. I think there's a small proportion now who are so burned by the taking it away from Auckland that perhaps they wouldn't sort of be conducive to supporting it coming back.
So it looks like once again the most important part of the race could be before the boats even make it to the start line.
Okay, Grace, what's Auckland Council saying about all this?
Well, Laura, Mayor Wayne Brown was on his way to Brazil today, so he wasn't available to comment, but Deputy Mayor Desley Simpson did, and she said in a statement she sincerely hopes that Auckland is on the shortlist to host the next America's Cup. But she did go on to say that funding is without a doubt a major factor. The council has several financial challenges, and until they know more detail about where this funding is coming from, they can't comment any further on the matter. But we may have already had one of the biggest indications that the Cup won't be coming back home to Auckland. One of Team New Zealand's senior leaders and longtime backer, billionaire Matteo Denora, told an Italian newspaper that if the next series is held within the next 2 years, it'll either stay in Barcelona or go to the Middle East, simply because New Zealand wouldn't be ready in time.
Grace Thomas there live from Auckland Viaduct.
Live from Auckland in the Viaduct, one of the nicest places in the world for a regatta to be based. A couple of kind of one hears things. I don't think any of this is too private or is any too big a secret or even a big revelation. Apparently, both the PM, who's a Conservative party, and it's a coalition party of, I think, 3 different parties. You Kiwis, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, please. But he's in favor of it, apparently. He has said, yeah, we'd like to do it. And you heard him say, I think, in as few words, we're not going to pursue it. We're not going to make a proposal. Let Team New Zealand make a proposal to us. Well, Mr. Dalton has already said, we'll look at any proposal from the government. So it's kind of already it appears to be. Number 2, the mayor of Auckland is a member of the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron and a sailor and a boat owner. And this is the guy who was on his way to Brazil, according to this report we just heard. But he also supports it. He has cleaned up in Auckland, and remember they went from a city council to a regional council, and they took on the debts of a lot of different places. And he's now, apparently, he and his council and others have cleaned all that up. And they're in reasonably good shape, albeit in a very tight fiscal situation where they're trying not to spend money on things outside of basic needs and basic services. So apparently the mayor's in favor of it, and he is, as I said, a member of the squadron. But as you heard, the sentiment is not all that strong. Julia.
I just wonder why they're planning on losing money, and why can't they plan to make a profit out of it?
Make a profit out of what? Out of
Well,
hosting it?
yeah.
Well, because they got to put out a venue fee. I mean, we know that Barcelona put out 70 million euros to host it, a payment to the team.
I know.
And it's one thing to say, well, that $70 million is going to bring in $500 million of tax revenue, which is what some people are saying Barcelona has already recouped by having tax revenue. But you know, that's one of these things it's really hard to know the economic impact and whether that would have been there anyway, or whether you can attribute the rise in tax income because of the America's Cup or because of just tourism or whatever. Yeah. So it's having been in that movie now many times myself, and you always argue, oh, it's going to bring a lot of money into the whole city.
But I mean, it's like the Olympics. I mean, the Olympics waste so much money. In many ways, but it planned differently, it could make money. We know that. Well,
maybe, not necessarily. I mean, look at what happened to Auckland last time. They planned it, and then COVID struck, and nobody could go. I mean, okay, that was exceptional, but nonetheless.
Yes.
Well, we'll see. I thought, Julia, what we should do is a FOSI poll. We haven't done one of those in a long time.
Okay.
And on the assumption that the next one is going to be in 2027, and here's why I say that.
Okay.
You heard Mr. Denora say, well, you know, we might be wanting to do this sooner, and it's certainly not going to do it in 2025, even though the challenger of record, the Brits, Royal Yacht Squadron, you had put in a thing saying we'll do it in 10 months' time. That's the way those again, I've been in that movie a bunch of times.
Yeah.
That's always what those hip pocket challenges, what those first in challenges say. We'll do it in 10 months' time unless we mutually consent otherwise. So that puts pressure on the defender. There's no way the challenger is going to come up with a competitive program in 10 months' time.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that. The defender does not want to do it in 10 months' time. So you mutually consent to something else, meaning will it be 2020? Now, so not 2025.
Right.
Will it be 2026? So here's the problem with 2026.
Yeah.
You got a Winter Olympics. Takes a lot of revenue, television revenue, advertising revenue, sponsorship revenue out of the global system. You've also got World Cup soccer in 2026, which gets a lot of eyeballs and sponsor revenue and so on. So the earliest, in my never so humble opinion, is going to be 2027.
Well, to have a new participant,
plus to have a new team coming in, exactly. It really to expect a new team to come in, get up to speed, and have any chance of being up to speed. You got to give them more time than a year or two.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, the flip side is the burn rate. For every additional month.
Oh, yes.
I mean, these teams are spending, especially at the end, they're spending $1 million, maybe not quite that much a month. And in 12 months, they're spending $12 million, maybe more, and depending upon, there's a lot of money at the beginning, and then you get the design done, and then it starts to taper off. But it's the burn rate is when you hire all these people, you got to keep them fed. You got to, it's significant. So the shorter it is, the less the burn rate.
Right.
But that doesn't help income. I mean, that almost precludes incoming new teams. So we'll see. Matthias Collins is saying Maldives, lots of money, suspicious origin, but they would be able to calculate the real return revenue. Yeah, it would be. Mm-hmm. It would be. My vote is for Newport, Rhode Island. Mark Holland. Thanks again to Mark Holland for all of your help with statistics and otherwise. So too Mark Atchison during our now many watch parties that are behind us, thank goodness. But in any event, 2020, on the assumption is 2027, I said in the show notes, get your crystal balls out and polished up. And you, Fozy, tell us now, please, in the chat, when and where, assuming assuming it's 2027, where will the AC38 be held? And here are, I think, the options, and I've given you some shortcuts here. First of all, you saw that on my Facebook page, Julia. Mm-hmm. Do you know why I put that up? Because a lot of people in Barcelona are telling me
to go to Valencia.
That Valencia is the odds-on favorite if it stays in Spain.
Aha.
Not Barcelona, not Malaga, but Valencia now is keen to get it back, and Barcelona may not be so keen, depending upon who you believe.
Right.
But that Valencia is putting in a bid, putting in an offer, and may well get it back.
Oh,
so
that would be interesting.
I didn't say that in so few words, but I did put that on my Facebook page. But it is definitely in the hunt from everything I am hearing. Mm-hmm. So I ask you in the Fozy poll, where do you think it will go? A, Auckland, B, Barcelona, C, Valencia, D, the Middle East. And I say Middle East because Jeddah is the leader. There's no question. They've had a regatta there. They're spending money on Formula One, on golf, on tennis, on horse racing, yada, yada. And Jeddah is the odds-on favorite if it goes to the Middle East. But remember, too, the Emirates, but also Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, even Dubai are potential hosts because they have spent money on sporting events as well. But let's don't get that granular at this point today. Mm-hmm. A, B, C, D, meaning the Middle East, or E, none of the foregoing. And let's see what the Fozy have to say. Fritz Mueller, Cape Town. He's in Miami, and he thinks Cape Town. John Spangos, way more than what? Yeah, it is more than $1 million a month. Certainly later in the game, John. Maybe $1 million. That's not that much. I think the AC would rather have its own media team and sell the package to the mainstream media. Next one in Auckland is what Tier de Jong is saying. Is that your submission with your crystal ball, Tier? Emmett says no idea. Rhode Island Rover says Auckland or bust. Scarborough in 2025. Pindar says if man is still alive. Valencia 27. So I hope Clark Chapin or somebody will go back, Mark Holland, take a look at this so we've got some stats. Mark is saying, I think what we will see is a World Series type of AC40 group of regattas worldwide, similar to and in competition with Sail GP. Yeah, I think you're going to see, Julia, I think you're going to see a lot of AC40 sailing here in the next go-around. Mm-hmm. Who else has a view? Clayton Embley says D, Middle East. Stingray, Valencia. Ed Worley, not taking a position. Doesn't Bertarelli own a chunk of the Valencia harbor? Not that I've heard Fog Machine. I don't know that. Matthias Collins is his bet. What's your bet, Matthias? Auckland should be the venue. Blake Middleton is saying, common sense be damned. Valencia. That's Matthias's bet. Valencia. Bobby Steele says Valencia. Excuse me. I need some coffee, Julia, with some of your bourbon cream. With Alan Embley's bourbon cream. No, I've got mine. that doesn't have anything in it. A lot of you think Valencia. Anna Cortez for a dog match. Stingray saying that. You know where that is, Julia?
Yes.
That's where we built the trimaran, up in Anna Cortez, up in the PNW. What else? Graham Sweeney says 2026. I don't think so, Graham. I don't think it's going to be that quick. Worley saying 2027 in Jeddah. Follow the money. Sports washing efforts. Ed Worley is saying 2027 in Jeddah. Alistair Murray. Hello, Mr. President. Auckland, but that's from my heart, not my head. Yeah, okay, here we go again. Heart, not head. Blake Middleton thinks Auckland. Morgan Bertrand says no. He says Middle East, Auckland. A lot of views here. Billy Lynn. He's agreeing with Ed, and he was just in Barcelona. Bill is the head of the Airsoft Maritime Museum and also head of the America's Cup Hall of Fame. And they had a great event in the Maritime Museum there in Barcelona, Billy Lynn presiding. And Gary Jobson was emceeing it. And we covered that on the show last Tuesday, right? And Bill Lynn is agreeing with Ed Worley, 2027 in the Middle East. And he probably has a pretty good handle, Bill Lynn does. Another guy I've known since he was out of swaddling clothes or in swaddling clothes. Auckland, Pindar, D, and Andrew Davola, Dolly Davola saying D dollars. Follow the D dollars. You think why I gave that the D? the others were alphabetical, and then I put D for dollars for the Middle East. Thierry Diong says his crystal ball shows Auckland. Spangos John is saying Valencia fall of 2027. Well, there's a lot of people thinking it'll be Valencia. A lot of people think it will be the Middle East in 2027, as does Roger Lockhart. Okay, well that's a pretty good poll. Fog Machine, a.k.a. Lance Burke, is saying to Bill Lynn, thank you for the Harasoff it's pronounced locally. Classic Regatta in August. That was fun. No, Chris Fury, I don't think it's going to be in Punta del Este. I think it's going to be Barcelona, Valencia, or the Middle East, and we shall see. My bet is 2027 in Jeddah. I'll say not Middle East. I'll say Jeddah right off the bat.
Wow.
That's my prediction. What do you think, Julia?
I have no idea.
No, you don't want to take a heart or a head?
Oh, a heart goes to Auckland.
Oh, of course. I totally agree with you. But then I usually do. Except on your Crutonic 7-4. It was obviously going to be 7-2. All right?
Oh, well, I can't be right all the time.
Well, I had to agree with Vice Commodore Harrington. Once she said 7-2.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's inside information.
You have to go with your Commodore. You're my Commodore, too.
Yes.
But no, I said 7-2 a long time ago, as Victor Felice will affirm.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to another interesting development in the sport, and that is, there's other things going on. As we said, there's the Middle Sea race wrapping up now. We got the Finn Europeans going on in Cannes, and we have coming up in just a couple weeks is this event. There is your first clue. You know where that is, Julia? Fabulous yacht racing venue.
It looks like Sweden.
Nope. It is, they just had a hurricane go south of them. That is BDA.
Oh, Bermuda.
That is Bermuda. And the Bermuda Tourism Authority, today, they announced that they've extended their partnership of world-class match racing events, including and especially the Bermuda Gold Cup, which takes place, as I said, in 10 days' time? A couple weeks' time. And there is that esteemed fabulous trophy. So the 29th of October, that's in 7 days' time, the King Edward VII Gold Cup gets underway at the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club in Hamilton. Bermuda Tourism Authority has renewed its long-standing partnership with the RBYC to support the 2024 Bermuda Gold Cup for the King Edward VII Gold Cup. And the inaugural, this is a new event, 2024 Aspen is the sponsor, Bermuda Women's Match Race Regatta. Both events to run from 29 October to 3 November. Bravo Zulu to James Pleasance and the World Match Racing Tour and the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club for making this happen. This year celebrates the 72nd edition of the Bermuda Gold Cup. Congressional Cup's only on year 60 coming up next year. A founding event of the World Match Racing Tour, the world's longest running professional sailing series. It's been going on there since 2000. By the way, a schedule note, I'm pleased to say that coming up with us on Friday next, a week Friday, on the 1st of November, James Pleasance from Great Britain, who is the WMRT Executive Director. He'll be live from BDA and give us an update on what's going on there in both the main event and also the women's event, which is becoming a main event as well.
Right. He looks like he's just swallowed the canary.
He does. No. I asked him to send his favorite picture.
Well, that's a great picture.
And he did.
Yeah.
It will be great. Peter Taylor agrees to see James on the show. He hasn't been on in a while, but maybe he was on when they were in Sydney for something.
Yeah.
Not too long ago.
He was on last year once.
Andy Cox in Bermuda. It was nice to have Andy on during many of the watch parties we were getting ready. Biggest purse on the women's match race circuit, $40,000 total, and everyone gets a slice of the cake.
Oh, well, good.
I'm getting more into match racing, and Lily is starting to do more too, John Emmett says. Of course, they're racing the IODs, which is real sailing.
Yep.
Fog Machine, a.k.a. Lance Burke, totally agree. And it should be a hell of a good event. And Julia, you should know that just before we went to air, I got an email apropos this event going on in Bermuda. And do you know what that is? Bermuda's official national drink, I think. Certainly the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club's official drink. That is a Gosling's.
Oh, it's rum.
Rum and ginger. That's a Dark and Stormy.
It's a Dark and Stormy.
And we got this in the email, by email, just before we went to air. Hi, Tom and Julia. Greetings from Bermuda, and hope you enjoy the small gift that is on its way. It might be useful when you do the webcast with James Pleasance on 11/1. Regards, Andy, and that is from our Fozy, Andrew Cox, Andy Cox, who just is on here.
In Bermuda.
In Bermuda,
Yeah.
And thanks to Andy and Julia, I think people are getting the impression we're lushes here.
Yeah, and it's too late for you.
Well, I've stopped drinking a long time ago, but that's no particular reason. I can start again too. No reason not to. Maybe I need to try some of this Dark and Stormy.
I'm down pretty much to one a day, but it makes me much more cheerful.
John Emmett loves it Dark and Stormy. Gosling's is now sponsored U.S. Sailing. And on Bravo Zoo to them. Thanks, Andy. You're very kind. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
In our show number 776 to get a piece of news like that just
Let's
before.
celebrate it. I will.
Well, you will. You drink it. Okay. Well, Cocktail Hour Illustrated.
You bet.
Damn sweet. Everything in moderation, including moderation. And Emmett is saying Lush was the name of my old boys team, his team racing team from Loughborough University. The student has been the Lush. Wonder what Lush stood for.
London University student.
Oh, got it. I got it. Thank you. Well done,
Has-beens.
Julia.
Yeah.
Well done, Julia. The Loughborough, not London, Loughborough University student has-beens. John Emmett. Dark and Stormy, the Chris Feary's Nectar of the Gods. Yeah, we learned a new expression, didn't we, Julia, during the squeaky bum that Alan Long's reminding us. That was John Emmett's. We would call that a tight sphincter, or, you're getting a little,
Yeah.
We'd call it here in the U.S., we'd call it a pucker. Getting a little puckered up here. And Emmett calls it a squeaky bum. I think that's a new expression.
Yeah, I've never heard that except from him.
And Mr. President Alistair Murray, John, if you stay at my place next year, we will drink plenty of Dark and Stormies. You should see my rum collection.
Yeah.
Okay, cheers, barking spider. No, okay, Fritz Mueller. Let's get into the last leg. We're an hour and 15 minutes into this show. The last leg to Gloucester and do a special last leg. This is about a cool regatta. Have you ever heard, Julia, of this regatta?
No.
The Sail Sandy Regatta.
Mm-mm.
Nor had I. I thought maybe it was something in the Middle East. Sandy, desert.
Mm-hmm.
You're not impressed.
No.
You're not impressed.
No.
There is an event, and it turns out to be a very cool event at this club. Do you recognize this club, or maybe its logo in the upper left corner?
Sandringham.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is Mr. President's home club there in Melbourne, the Sandringham Yacht Club. And they put on a regatta every year called the Sail Sandy. And the Sail Sandy 2024 took place last weekend. The regatta is open to all monohull and catamaran off-the-beach boats. That's the only, if you get enough boats to show up, you can have a fleet and a trophy. And boards with a listed, what's YV? I don't know, that's not Portsmouth Yardstick, that's somebody else's yardstick, handicapping system. Foiling kites, wing foils, J24s, and J70s. Entries are also open to all Green Fleet sailors, meaning newcomers in either the Minnow, the Open Bic, the Cadet, or the Optimist classes. Both the fiberglass and plastic Optimists will be accepted.
Wow, what a group.
So there is a list of all the fleets, and
Wow.
you see not only my favorite, the Fireball, but also the Tazar. Mr. President Alistair Murray sailed in the Taser class with his daughter, but only on Sunday. He was tied up apparently, or she was, on Saturday, so they couldn't race Saturday. But look at that list of classes that turn out for this regatta.
It's amazing.
Yachting Victoria, Alistair is telling us in the comments. Apparently they have a handicapping system. I assume that's what that means.
Yeah.
A YV number, yardstick number, is a handicapping number. Bravo Zulu, though, to the Sandringham Yacht Club, to Mr. President and Alistair Murray and everybody else, because it looks like it was a hell of an event. And we even managed to find a video on Facebook about it. Have a look at this. Music's a little strange at the start, but gets better. Chris Ferry saying about 100 volunteers run the event.
Pretty light at first, we went out, but towards the end of the day it got pretty windy. Yeah, some good breeze, good waves, yeah. Yeah, I've been to Sandringham quite a bit over the years. It's always a great place to learn like big wave techniques and stuff. Yeah, it always has a good breeze, and yeah, it's a really good place to sail. The 4.7s which I was racing in had a good fleet, so there was plenty of competition, and yeah, it was pretty fun.
Very exciting racing, lots of shifts going on, so a very tactical day with a fair bit of action. So I think one of the best things about the weekend was the race management efficiency. So they were turning around the races very quickly, and that made for very enjoyable sailing, not a lot of hanging around between races. They were great.
It was really good because there were a lot of boats, and also we were all kind of the same level, so it was fun to race. We had a lot of wind and waves on the first day, and the second day it was really good as well.
Yeah, today was a lot lighter, which was nice, I think. But yeah, the waves were a bit of a challenge.
It really looks like a fun event.
Doesn't it? Yeah. I want to sail in that event. Apparently Nick Douglas and her dad sailed the Tasers. And as we said, Alistair sailed on Sunday only with his daughter. It just looks like a fabulous event. Bravo Zulu. And Alistair, thanks for sending that along, tipping me off. And by the way, we've got a comment here from, I see Richard Gladwell is up and at 'em in Auckland. You talk about a guy who's pulled yeoman's duty. I mean, did a fabulous job writing for sail-world.com. He is Sail World NZL there in the comments down at the bottom. He's saying that ETNZ have just issued a statement saying, quote, difficult to expand the number of teams based on the available infrastructure space in Barcelona.
Aha.
What do you think that means, Julia?
They're going someplace else.
Exactly. That's exactly what I took that to mean. And I think that means they're saying, we can't do it here. We don't have enough space in Barcelona. So we got to abandon Barcelona and either go to Valencia or Jeddah. I think it's what that's just laying the groundwork. And remember, Julie Aarons, if you're watching at JFK, if your plane got in on time and you're watching, you told me this was Grant's last time. So you've talked to him. We'll have to see what Julie Aarons thinks now, having been there and getting home and seeing her longtime friend, Grant Dalton, seeing what her latest take is on all of this. I love events like this. Blake Middleton is sailing, who is a superb race officer. I love events like this, real sailing races, unlike the one that just ended in Spain. Matthias Collins says Valencia is empty and finished, meaning they'll never go back there. I have a feeling you're right, Matthias. I'd love it if it went back there. I'd for sure go. And Chris Fury is saying, no, Nick was not in BCN. She was not at, she was in BCN, Barcelona, not at Sail Sandy. Apparently she has sailed at Sail Sandy in the past. Nick Douglas, who also did some nice work in Barcelona doing interviews, as did any number of other people, including Matt Sheehan. We'll start to do some more reviews about this. I think we're all a little tired of the Cup. We're very happy and proud of the Kiwis. It was a fabulous effort. Proud of the Brits for getting through for the first time in a long time, since the 64, that there's been a British team in the match, and the first time that a British team has won a race. In fact, they won 2 races.
Right.
Since 1934.
Which is a grand achievement.
It is indeed, Julia, a grand achievement. We all agree. Any other comments we should tend to, Julia? You're watching them closer than I today. Graham Sweeney says Grant Dalton won't stop until the great maker takes him. Graham Sweeney was our #1 Zoomer. He was the first one on way back 2 months ago today when we started on the 22nd of August. And he came on, and the others filtered in and were regulars, and I appreciate all of them again very much. Chris Fury saying that Nick did sail the Taser Worlds at Sandringham earlier this year. I want to go to that yacht club. I've been, but it's been a long time. Alistair Murray, thanks again for tipping us off, which gets us to the Ted Ryman segment. Julia?
Yes.
Get your finger ready.
Okay.
He contributed 3 today,
Uh-oh.
Ted did, to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Now this one, believe it or not, this should have been who contributed this one. This is not a Ted Ryman. Only 1 in 4 men are actually happy, not the one in the upper left corner. This is a guy who's happily married to a sailor, to boot. Not the guy in the upper right corner. Not apparently the couple in the lower left corner, but the guy in the lower right corner, somebody's photoshopped that picture in. Is that Mr. Dr. McIrvin at the helm of his yacht? No, I don't think it is. But who sent this one in? He's the only guy who's happy is the guy at the wheel of his yacht. John Emmett.
Really?
Yeah, John sent that in. What do you think of that? Are you surprised?
Not surprised at the thought, but at the source.
Exactly. Ed Worley said the watch parties helped make watching the AC bearable.
Well, they did.
Certainly did for me.
Me too.
Huh?
Me too.
It certainly did. We've all said that. John said that. John Emmett said that too. It was really fun to share share the viewing with all of you. You know, I see here, Julia, on I was watching ESPN's post-game show last night, the show after the Monday Night Football, and they do the analysis now in front of a great, huge screen in the studio, and the guy runs around with a pointer and sticker, You know, I think you need to help us here get Studio C.
Yes.
We need to convert another room here in the Beach Street Yacht Club and put a huge screen up. And then you can run around either in your chair
pointer?
or, yeah, you can, or I can run around with a pointer, or we get somebody else, and we'll get Lance Burke to come over here. Lance would be great with the pointer running around during the watch party and say, look at this, look at that. Or we'll bring Emmett in here and do it, get him over here to do it.
Or you can use your finger on the screen.
Well, yeah, you know, that's what I did. I mean, I did a lot of that, but, you know, that's not the same as getting up and running around. John might be cooking his own dinner after that one, you think, Andrew? Davola, Dolly Davola. It is because my cartoons never get past the censor. Is it because he is a Dane? Is that a Danish flag there on the back of that? I don't know. John Madden, Telestrator. This is the poor man's Telestrator right here. I don't know if you remember, a number of you will remember, we used to have, I had mounted here long ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, I had, in fact, the iPad mini that is up here now, that is my clock, my studio clock. I had that iPad mini mounted right here in front on a thing, and I could switch to that and telestrate over the slides.
Yes, I remember that.
That was a long time ago, but you know what? It's frankly a lot easier to do this.
It is.
And point. And then you can not only do the slides, but you can also put other stuff up there. If you want to put, as we had a moment ago, that thing from Clara, I'll probably put some porn up here. Forgive me if I do. No, this website that Clark Chapin sent, 45 minutes ago, I can put that up on the TV now, and we can talk to it as well as what is coming off the slides and so on. So there is some advantage to my cheap and cheerful system here, which is pointing to the big screen TV. Okay, enough of all this. Big thanks to all the FOSI, the Zoomers, and the commentators. I got through the AC with all your expert perspectives and conjecture. Made it fun for an otherwise dud of an event. Yeah, if I had a nickel for every nice comment I've had from people, some people, and we had thousands of views, people that I don't even know, didn't know, who sent a nice note about you Zoomers and about
the format.
The format and coming on. I could buy you at
and
least,
the host.
Well, the host not so much because everybody knows he's a crouton. But Julia,
sir,
it's the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club who makes this all possible. Thanks again to you. Let's carry on with We Are in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Now we get to Ryman's. I've cut down on my drinking and now only have 1 vodka before going to bed, Julia. Last night I went to bed 8 times. Drinking Illustrated. The drinking show of the sailing habit.
Yeah.
The next one, Julia, you'll enjoy this. Don't piss off old people like you and me. The older we get, the less life in prison is a deterrent.
That's also good.
Oh, gosh. And that also from Ryman. And then finally,
yes,
I got to end on this one. This is a video. We're going to dedicate this to a lingy.
Okay.
To a lingy.
Uh-huh.
And we'll see if you figure out what's going on here and also why I've decided to dedicate this video from Ted Ryman to a lingy.
Okay.
When I saw that this morning, I laughed so hard. It's silly, but I laughed so hard. You don't think that's funny?
I know. I mean, it's.
Oh, come on. You got to have a sense of humor. Yeah. I mean, you see why I dedicated it to a lingy. It looks Swiss. It looks Alpian, if that's a word.
Yeah.
Is that a word? I didn't go to Stanford. Alpian. But they all took off their red shirts. So that's a bull. They didn't. They didn't want the bull to be, And then they're all looking at her because they want her to take her shirt off.
Yeah, I thought it was because they wanted her to take her shirt off.
Well, that too. Is that the end of the clip? Yes, I don't know for sure if it is, John. Clay Embley though gets the comment of the day. They should stand abreast of the bull.
Well, that deserves it.
Alpine, Alpine, I think is a better word, Steve Gruber. I think you are probably right. Okay, well, that also from Ted Ryman. Ted, you take the cake today. The sad part is that you're not alone. What's that Peter Taylor saying? What? Okay, I'm missing it. Okay, we won't take a poll. All that. I guess, thank God, to the finish line. We're an hour and 30 minutes into this show. I didn't think it would be this long, but Julia, you like to say.
Oh, yes. We know, especially from our watch parties, like, follow, and share. It adds a lot to us and our viewers.
Julia, you can just say like, follow, and share.
Like, follow, and share.
Look at the comment. You can read Graham Sweeney's comment. And then give him a finger wag.
Oh.
You can give him a finger wag.
Well, that's not so bad.
Another cock and bull story.
Yeah.
Like, follow, and share. We got it out of Julia finally. She loves to drag that slide out. We appreciate very much. And of course, the comments are also, I skipped over that. Comments. We leave comments open. And we had no problems with YouTube today. That's good news too. Julia,
yeah,
you can do this one too if you want.
Be sure to visit Patreon.
Yeah, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated and give us $1 or $2 or more.
Or more.
Or more. Say that again and do that again. Or look over at me and roll your eyes again.
Or more.
Yeah, that was good. Okay. We are punchy. After show 776 is what this show was today. Thanks for your support. We appreciate it very much. Thanks to everybody here who contributed audio, video, and images and more. And I just want to say one last program note. Our next show, Julia, is show number 777. And just literally, as we were counting down the last 2 minutes before we went to air,
yes,
we heard from Jonathan Frank.
The pilot.
The 777 pilot. Jonathan Frank is flying a trip to Frankfurt and then back, and he's piloting a United Airlines 777 to Frankfurt and back. He will not be able to come on live to show 777 during his piloting duties. Of course, he won't be able to, but he is going to chip in. He's going to contribute something to us from his hotel room, I think in Frankfurt, for show 777 in his honor, in the honor of all of our FOSI, because who better to do show 777
than the pilot, yes,
Jonathan Frank. That's our show on Friday. We're back to our normal Tuesday and Friday shows. Tuesday at 1300 Pacific. We got the time change coming up, but I'm not going to talk about that today. Cheers to all of you. Matthias Collins wants to know, what about an F1 show? Let's don't do any more watch parties anytime soon. Maybe we'll do some more when we get, we'll certainly do one for Sydney Hobart when that comes up here on Boxing Day. The Jonathan Frank Show this Friday. Well, we'll have a segment from Jonathan anyway. He's promised that. Thanks, Julia. Thanks to all the chatters. Thanks to everybody for joining us for this show. We hope to see you on Friday in the regular time slot here. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.